Hey everybody, welcome back to Mike's Wooden Things and Stuff. Today we are finally going to deal with the big pile of maple slabs beside my house that my buddy Brad gave me. My buddy Mike is over and he's going to help me move them around so I don't hurt myself. And we're just going to dissect them. We're going to figure out what kind of chunks of wood we can get out of them, and then we're going to do that. Let's go have a look at what we're dealing with. It's a situation. Come on, they were free. Yay. So these are my chunks of Western big leaf maple. My buddy Brad said, do you want a couple chunks of maple? And this is what he meant by a couple chunks of maple. So let's have a look at them and see what we can get. This one wasn't my buddy Brad. That was a different buddy. That one's got a whole lot of rot. But still lots of good wood in there, I know there is. So I think what we're going to do is I think we're just going to go through these one at a time and figure out where the best place is to cut them all. And we'll just process them one at a time and get what we can get. All right. So that's a lot of rock. That's this whole sort of half down quite a ways is just garbage. So this guy has some issues. This whole half is, I don't know how deep it's rotten, but it's absolutely about this half of this one. So from about here, about the edge of this crotch to about, let's say here, we're just going to come right and just cut this guy right like that. And then we'll see how deep this rot goes. And then we can decide at that point how to continue the breakdown of this particular guy. This is not in great shape, but we'll get what we can out of it. There. Oh, we do want to like snap chalk line things.
It would be nice.
Sure. Somewhere
That's
about
a straight-ish line.
somewhere about there. This is a pretty straight line, actually.
Yeah, this side's way heavier. What the hell?
It's almost like there's more wood down there.
Yeah, but we're sharing it. Wherever it kind of balances.
So, good news and bad news here on this first one. There's a lot of rotten involved in this first one. There's a fair bit of solid wood in some places, but there's a lot of spongy and like not so good. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna take this inside to the bandsaw and we're just gonna cut sort of like 8-quarter slabs off this thing. And then once we have those slabs, we can figure out what in those slabs is good. just get the parts out of it that could maybe be turning blanks or something eventually, and then the rest of it can be burned, because not a lot of good in this one, but what there is we want to get. So we're just gonna do like maybe even 10-quarter slabs, and maybe we get a couple of like lidded box blanks or something for some lathe work down the line. We got a little bit of wood. I think maybe we're gonna lose another 3 inches off this side to get rid of all of this. I think most of this is pretty solid.
There's some usable stuff in there. There's a few punky spots.
A few punky spots, but I think, yeah, go about 3 inches down here. It looks like sort of the top, maybe 3-4 inches.
Gonna be some cool spalting.
It'll be interesting looking wood that should get used in some capacity. But not a lot in this one. Maybe some more in the other ones. This guy looks like it's got a lot of cracks going on, but it's solid wood for sure. So I think maybe, like, there's probably a solid bit in there and a solid bit in there. Most of the cracks seem to be down in here. I think we may just rip this through the bandsaw on these two sort of major cracks and then see if this is worth anything. I'll just try to get this section that looks good and this section that looks good and go from there. We'll do a little guy next. Actually pretty good. I'm just gonna keep going like that. Okay, so now that we've got it broken down into manageable size pieces, we have to decide what's coming into the shop to get stored in there, get that stuff relatively flat and to similar thicknesses so it stacks nice, and try our best to not bring bugs into the shop. So that's phase 2 of the scenario. Let's sort through it, and we'll deal. We'll continue to deal. Fucking Brad and his, do you want some maple? Do you want a couple chunks of maple, he says. So at this point in the process, I was still thinking that I would keep these as live edge slabs and just get them flat so that they were nicely stackable and storable. I was going to do a chemical treatment on them to take care of any sort of lingering residual bug infestation possibilities and things. So I made myself a sled for my planer with some wedges and some hot glue to run one side through and get it flat through the planer. At which point you can take it off the sled, flip it over now that you have a flat side, and get the other side flat and parallel to that first side, because obviously they are too big for my jointer. And immediately after doing that first one, I realized that that is stupid, because whenever I get around to using this wood for whatever it's going to get used for, there is approximately a 0% chance that I am going to need it in a live edge form, and I'm going to go through the process at that point of stabilizing the punky or rotten areas so that I can use it. There's 0 chance that that's going to happen. So why not at this point in the process just draw some straightish lines and get rid of all of that stuff that you're never going to use, and not worry about chemicals, because you're just taking out all of the stuff that's punky and rotten and possibly bug infested, and just store away reasonable boards that you can use later. Get them down to a manageable size so that you can use the jointer and take care of things and process things that way. Because yes, it is more wasteful than storing things in their full slab type form, but eventually it was going to be wasted. I know me and what I build, and there is no chance that I was going to stabilize any of that punky stuff or rotten stuff, and I'm not going to need the live edges later, so eventually it's going to be waste. Just waste it now instead of storing it and wasting it later. Yeah. Okay, at this point, I've got to be done. I've got that much waste that's going in the fire pit when the fire bands come off. That's everything that's either buggy or might be buggy, or live edges that are nonsense, just rotten stuff. I've got this section here that I'm calling chunks, which generally aren't great. They're all sort of they were short and sort of checked at the end. So there may be some usable material in the middle sections of a few of these, but they may be destined for the fire pit as well. Maybe some turning blanks, maybe some little snowman Christmas ornaments or something in there. And then I've got the boards section. This is usable wood that's good and solid and actually quite pretty. It's a lot of interesting looking pieces of maple. It's between 1.5 and 3 inches thick and between 24 and 48 inches long. It's about 30-ish board feet of usable maple that's going to make it up onto the rack in the shop. And I'm going to hold on to it for whenever. I don't know, if you got some ideas of what I can do, what projects in mind for this 30-ish board feet of maple, let me know down in the comment section. That's it for this one. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe, everybody. See you next time. I'm going to get this loaded up on the maple rack up there. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now. With your safety vest and just like
high vis and my road sign,
and make sure that nobody drives by because we're recording.
That's right.
You just hold the little on-air sign up. Hey everybody, welcome back to Mike's Wooden Things and Stuff. Today I am finally going to tackle the big pile of slabs of maple that are out beside my house. My boy Mikey-B is here to help me move them around because they're heavy and I'm old and decrepit and that was mean. Don't be mean to yourself. Be kind to yourself.
Hurry up, old man.
Shut. Yeah, I will punch you. Right in the throat. With a chainsaw. Wow. We'll be running.
Oh.
That light is terrible.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's running again. Okay. Hey everybody, welcome back to Mike's Wooden Things and Stuff. Today I am finally going to tackle something that's been sitting in my yard.
When somebody says, hey, do you want some free maple slabs? Don't leave them in your side yard for 5 years, if you plan on ever using them.
3,
4, and a bit.
3 years.
3 and 12 twelfths of a year.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Mike's Wooden Things and Stuff. Today I am finally going to deal with the big pile of maple that my buddy Brad dropped beside my house a couple of years ago. Be careful when people ask you, do you want a couple chunks of wood? And if you say yes, you may end up with a situation. Because I don't know who considers a bajillion board feet of maple to be a couple chunks. But in any case, he dropped them beside my house. I got home, I found them there, and they've been sitting there for a couple of years. And this is dragging on. And we'll just process them one at a time and get what we can get. And that's what we'll get. Because that's the definition of get. It's about what you got to get. When you're getting your got. You know, there's no point in storing garbage wood that you're not going to ever use. This was free wood that was given to me by my friend Brad. And any wood that I got out of it that will end up getting used eventually is going to be better than what that wood would have ended up being. Better. That's hard to say.